Good morning, church. I believe I've met all of you, but in case I haven't, my name is Kyle Stewart, and my wife Erica and I are the kids directors and the youth directors here at Christian Life Center. And I get the joys of speaking with you today. Now, church, before I really jump into this, I just kind of want to preface everything that this message, as I was praying over it, as I was writing it, was really a bit convicting to me. There were some spots that were kind of making me uncomfortable in a sense that I was lacking in a few of these. And I say that past tense, but it's still true. There are some areas that I am lacking. But I wanted to bring this to you as well because I feel that I'm not the only one in this, that I'm not the only one in this fight. Because what I'm going to talk about is the idea of reputations and the idea of names. Now, how many of you have ever had any individual in life repeatedly mess up your name? Like, it's a goofy thing to think about, but it's true. My last name, like I said, is Stewart. It's not necessarily a difficult name to say or spell, but it's not the most common. It gets often confused for Stewart with a T. My last name is Stewart with a D. And because that mistake happens so often, you can even ask my wife, when somebody asks me my last name, I will often say it and then immediately spell it. And it has nothing to do with what they asked, but it's just a habit now that people have messed up so many times that I've developed this habit of fixing it for them before they even have the opportunity to make the mistake. Now, that goofiness I bring up because names matter. And they matter for a few reasons. They're not just for our identification, like it's not just so you know to call me Kyle. I mean, technically I'll answer to you, as long as you're kind of looking at me, but that would make things really awkward to try and speak to anybody in a crowd and always point out you. But we need to know names because of identification, but also for our identity. Because names carry meaning. There's a quote out there that says, "Names shape how we see ourselves and how others see us." And I fully believe that that's true, both for our personal names and for the name that most of us in this room claim. As believers, we call ourselves Christian. And that's where it started becoming a convicting thought for me. Because am I living up to that name? Am I living up to the name of Christian? If I'm speaking to somebody about who I am and I list off Christian as one of my attributes, am I living up to that? Now, one of the many things that you all may not know about me is that legally I was actually adopted. I was not born with the last name of Stewart. So I was adopted into a wonderful family that I truly believe has lived up to that name. Steward, if you aren't already familiar, is a name that means caretaker. It's taking care of something. And the family that I was adopted into has done so much for me and has cared for me in ways most people haven't. Now, in adoption, someone joins a family. And in that, they join the family and they take on the name of the family. And once you gain the name, you gain the status. It's a similar thing that happens in marriage. You marry into a family, you take on the name, and you take on the status or the reputation that comes with it. Hopefully, the name that you take on is a good one. Hopefully, the reputation that you take is a good reputation. And with that, I want to jump to Proverbs 22, verse 1. And it says, this is actually King Solomon writing, and he says, "A good name is more desirable than riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold." And this very small proverb holds a lot of meaning. Because a good name is really just specifically your reputation. And it's saying that we should be choosing a good reputation over great riches. Because our reputation, what we stand for, is going to last much longer than riches, rather than gold or silver. We make a good reputation by having integrity. Integrity, as C.S. Lewis states, is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. We, as Christians, need to have integrity. And for one very large reason. And it's up there on the slide. But I know green was not the best color for me to choose on this. But integrity is important because it allows us to witness. It allows us to tell people about who Jesus is. And if we don't have the integrity to back it up, if we don't have the reputation to tell who Jesus is correctly, we aren't going to be an effective witness. And in fact, I was really reflecting on this point this morning. The 9th commandment actually says, "Thou shalt not bear false witness." If we try to speak about Jesus and we do it incorrectly, if we don't have the integrity to back that up, if we're showing people Jesus in the wrong light, if we're showing not real Jesus, we're effectively bearing a false witness at that. And this makes me think of two very powerful questions, two important questions. And the first one is, what are you known for? What are you known for, personally? And I say that because people will hear your name, and they will immediately have a thought. They will think of the reputation that you've made for yourself. They'll think of the reputation that possibly your family has made around you or for you. What are you known for in your family? What are you known for in your workplace? What are you known for to complete strangers? If they see you in the store, what do they start thinking about you? And the second question is, what do you want to be known for? And this one is really important to me because this is really helping us set goals. And while I've thought about it this way, and I've tried to think of a way that didn't sound so dark, but it's just the only way I can really think of it. When it comes time for a tombstone to be written for you, what do you want on it? If you, like for me, some of the important ones, a loving father. If I'm not showing that day to day, is that what's going to be written about me? Or if I want to be known as somebody who is for our community, am I doing things that are going to show that and have people think that about me? If I want to be known as a Christ follower, am I doing things that will make people believe that about me? Now, I had found a couple of somewhat scary statistics. In 2023, the Barna Group did a study with some people who are considered non-Christians or those with no faith. And do you know the number one response as to why these people did not have faith or just completely were not Christian? And it's because the hypocrisy of religious people. That's what many non-believers feel about Christians. And that's why they end up with no faith. And a 2019 study done by Lifeway Research found that people who dropped out of regular attendance, people who aren't attending church regularly, often, and again, one of the top reasons, was the church members seemed judgmental or hypocritical. And this is where, as I was saying, this was a convicting bit of information for me. Because am I being a hypocrite, or am I living up to the name of Jesus? Because if I'm being a hypocrite, I'm not helping these statistics. If I'm being a hypocrite, I'm in fact pushing people away from Jesus. And our whole goal is to bring people into the love of Jesus. So truly, who here claims the title of Christian? If somebody asks you what you believe, if somebody asks you what type of church you attend, how many of you would answer Christian? Because, I mean, I know I would say it, I would say that I am Christian. And when we do that, when we say we're Christian, we are literally taking the name of Christ upon ourselves. We're saying that we are a follower of Jesus. We're saying that we've been adopted into his family. We're saying that we are children of God. If you are a Christian, it is now our responsibility to represent him well. Now, oddly enough, in the entire Bible, in just a few pages, we only find the word Christian 3 times in the entire Bible. And it's funny to think that to me, but we find that twice in the book of Acts and once in the first letter to Peter. So Acts 11, verse 26 says, "So Barnabas went to Tarsus to look for Saul, and when he had found him, he brought him to Antioch. For a whole year they met with the church and taught a great many people. And in Antioch, the disciples were first called Christians." And then further down in the book, in Acts 26, verse 28, it's actually, I'm going to give a little bit of context, 27 through 29. But this is where Paul is actively in chains in front of King Agrippa. And he's getting an opportunity to speak to the king while actively being chained. And Paul says to King Agrippa, "King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you believe." And Agrippa said to Paul, "In a short time, would you persuade me to be a Christian?" So, there's that part is Agrippa challenging Paul to try and convince him, persuade him to be a Christian. And Paul said, "Whether short or long, I pray to God that not only you, but also all who hear me this day might become such as I am, except for these chains." Paul is saying that he's wishing everybody would become a Christian. And in his letter to Peter, he writes in chapter 4, verses 14 through 16, he says, "If you are insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed, because the Spirit of glory and God rests upon you. But let none of you suffer as a murderer or a thief or an evildoer or as a meddler. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name." Context, when we look at history, show that the word Christian was not meant to be a pleasant word. It was actually meant to be a mocking statement. When we find that in the book of Acts in the city of Antioch, they would have spoken Greek at that time. And the Greek roots of the word Christian mean little Christ. And they didn't say that kindly. They were intentionally mocking God. They were intentionally mocking those who were following Jesus. And while the title Christian may have originally been a label of mockery, the church has embraced it. Because if we could even be a little bit Christ-like, if we could be a little more like Jesus, then we're on a much better path than we were without Jesus. Now, the singer Chris Tomlin once said, "Could someone look at your life or look at my life and name me a Christian?" He continues to say, that's a humbling thought for sure. Church, we are always being observed. And yes, that's still true of God, but I'm meaning just in our day-to-day lives. We're being observed always. When you go to the grocery store and you're walking up and down the aisles, you're being observed. People see you. There's a statement out there that more is caught than taught. So no matter what we say to people is what we do Christian. Are you a Christian? And being a Christian is an ongoing process. It is 100% a verb. It's a thing that you do. You be a Christian. And what does that truly mean? What does it mean to be a Christian? Because being a Christian is much more than a label. It is 100% a lifestyle. It's something that you do. Now, there are 6 ways, or I've got 6 ways, there are plenty more, but I have 6 ways that we can live up to the name of Christian. And again, like I said before, some of these are really quite convicting to me, but I'll jump into them. The first way is to make peace. Are you, I'm including me in this you statement, are we merciful and peace-loving? In the book of James, the Bible tells us, the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. We can always have opinions. Like that's normal, we all have opinions. But it's what we do with those that becomes important. Are we going to be inflammatory with those opinions? Are we going to go onto different social media platforms? Are we going to take to the streets and intentionally be inflammatory? Or are we trying to make peace? And that's also backed by the book of Matthew. And we see Jesus, I believe that's where Jesus is speaking. Of course, I flipped to the wrong side. But it is in Matthew, it's Jesus speaking on the mountainside. It's part of the Beatitudes. And Jesus says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy." And then verse 9 says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." Now, I also wanted to make a small little footnote here, but it's small, but it can be very important. That there is a difference between being a passive peacekeeper and an active peacemaker. Because we can't stand on the sidelines when we're seeing large amounts of injustice happening. We can't stand on the sidelines when people are actively going against what God has for them or for us or just as people. We can't stand on the sidelines and just go, well, the whole world is doing okay, I guess I'll just do nothing about it. But you can be an active peacemaker. You can have integrity, like I mentioned before, and do the right thing. You can lean into the Word of God. You can lean into the truth. When we look at the life of Jesus, Jesus wasn't passive. I mean, he's the one who walked into the temple and started flipping tables and snapping whips. He was a peacemaker. And if we're trying to be more like Jesus, then we need to start making peace. We need to start doing what Jesus would have done in that moment. Now, point number 2, this one's important to me, is to build community. Are you actively growing with other believers? Are you spending time with other Christians? Because healthy Christians love to do life and grow together with other Christians. And if a Christian can't seem to get along with others, then they're often just really immature with their faith. And that's where they're going to grow with other believers. In Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17, it says, "Iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another." Church, we don't say it enough. We don't talk about the different options that we've got here at this church enough. But if you're not part of one of the different groups, do that. Get into one of the groups. There's a women's Bible study that you can talk with either Kay or with Pastor Judy. There's a men's Bible study that you can talk to Pastor Rich. Eric has been putting on a teen girls Bible study where we've actually, oddly enough, had more students to that than we've had at our normal youth group. These opportunities to study the Bible, these opportunities to come together in prayer at the prayer meetings, these are opportunities that we have that we need to take advantage of and get together with other Christ followers and sharpen each other. Because we are not meant to do this life alone. We're not meant to do the Christian thing alone. We are meant to sharpen each other. On the flip side of that same coin, we aren't called to just be friends with other believers. We are also called to shine among sinners. Are you being a light into the dark places? We need to actively be friends to sinners. Jesus was. Look at the people who followed him the closest. He wasn't afraid to get down in the dirt and into the darkness because he was the light in it. And we need to be friends to sinners partially because we've all been there. We've all done that. For all have fallen short of the glory of God. But we need to be friends with sinners and actively be showing them God's mercy and actively show them the grace that God would. We need to be a light to them. Simultaneously, we need to be strong in our faith and careful in those same interactions that we're not falling into temptation alongside them. But we need to be strong in our faith where we can be a light to them. Acts 26, just a little farther up in the chapter from before, Acts 26 verses 17 and 18 say, "I will rescue you from your own people and from the Gentiles. I am sending you to them to open their eyes and turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, so that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who are sanctified by faith in me." That was one of the statements that Jesus makes when he is actively on the road with Saul being turned into Paul. That calling goes to all of us. And I'm going to repeat that because I think it's important. I am sending you to them, meaning the Gentiles, to open their eyes and turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, so that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who are sanctified by faith in me. Now, I had mentioned there, and I found an important piece where we have to be strong in our faith to not fall to the temptations of the sinful. And that leads us into point 4. And that's that we need to be feeding on the word. Are you spiritually malnourished, or are you daily fed? I say something to our youth kids often, and you can ask any one of them, that you should be in your Bible regularly. And I say that because if you were to try and go week to week and only hear the Bible through Pastor Randall, or only hear the Bible, and again, for our youth students, I'll often say, if you're only hearing the Bible through me, then yes, you're getting some Jesus, but you're not getting what Jesus is speaking directly to you. The Bible is active, living, breathing. It speaks to each of us. This is God speaking to us. And if we're not taking that opportunity to feed on the word, then it would be very similar to going a week without food, like actual physical food. Our body technically can handle that. It's not good for us. It actually makes us weaker. It makes us have severe illnesses. And it can be the same with our Bible. If we are not in this, then we become weaker. If we are not in this, we become spiritually malnourished. And in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 3, Moses says, "He humbled you, causing you to hunger, and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had known, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord." And Jesus reiterates that when he's being tempted. So we need to remember that we don't live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from God. We also need to be seeking the presence of God. Do you pray regularly, even when it's hard? Or, on the flip side, even when everything is going fantastic? And this might have actually been one of the points that was really convicting for me, is am I praying even when things are going wonderfully? Because there's always something to be praying for. And I often like to change the phrase of, is there anything I can pray for you, to what can we be praying for? And not give it the option of, no, I'm good. Because there's always something to be praying for. If it feels like life is just pressing down on you, that's an obvious time to be praying, because God's the only one who's going to help us get out of that. But when we're feeling on top of the world, we also need to be praying in that. We need to be praising in that God has already brought us to where things are really, really good. And in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6, we see, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." And truly, when you feel like you've run out of things to pray for, that's your opportunity to ask God to just reveal his heart to you, to each of us. Because there's always something to pray or to praise about. And the sixth point that I've got is to glorify God. Is your life pointing back to Jesus? Is your life pointing others to Jesus? Is everything you do glorifying God? And I've been told, and I feel like it's very, very true, that you, each of us, may be the only bit of Jesus that someone sees ever? And in that interaction, are you showing who Jesus really is? Are you helping others? Are you being kind? Are you being generous? I mean, it feels interesting to think, but are we showing the fruits of the Spirit? Are we showing love? Do you have joy? Do you have peace? Do you have patience? Do you have kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control? Do you have all of these things? Because Jesus did. And if we're trying to show who Jesus is, then we need to emulate that. We need to copy that. We need to have all of these things. And I'm not saying that we're all going to have all of these things all the time, but there are going to be times that somebody is looking to us to see what Jesus would do in a situation. Are you standing up for what's right? Are you being like Christ? Are you being a Christian? Do you have love when the whole world has just got you kind of agitated? Do you have joy in situations that should be tearing you down? Do you have peace in a time that others don't? Are you showing kindness to others? Are you showing goodness? Are you being faithful? Are you being gentle? Or do you have self-control? I mean, I'll admit on that one of self-control with children is sometimes really difficult. But it's true. And in that moment, again, in that moment of transparency, do I have self-control with my children? Am I being Christian? Am I showing them who Jesus is? So again, I ask you, what do you want to be known for? What do you really want to be known for? When your name is mentioned around people, what do you want people to associate that with? What do your kids see in you? What do your coworkers see in you? What do your friends see in you? What do strangers see in you? And I'm hoping that they see Jesus. I'm hoping that the things that I show to others is Jesus. I'm hoping that what I'm showing my children is Jesus. And this is where I wanted to have a moment of reflection. So, guys up top, if we could have a little bit of background music, that'd be fantastic. But I want to take a moment to reflect on that. And you are welcome to stand if you're able. But I want you to ask yourself, where am I not fully living up to the name of Christ? Again, I'll be very transparent in that, is that there are times that it's a self-control issue. There are times that I may not be showing joy because I might be freaking out about something else. But are we actively working closer to Jesus? Are we living up to the name Christian? What is an area of your life that you've had a hard time being Christian in? Are you being peaceful and merciful? Are you growing in your faith with others? Are you a friend to sinners? Are you actively reading your Bible? Are you actively praying? Does your daily life glorify God? And I bring that up, and I really want us to dig deep on this, because I guarantee that all of us have one, at least one, maybe more, thing that we can be improving in. One part of our life that we can be giving back a little more to Jesus and being Christian. Part of being Christian is being honest and being raw and glorifying God that he is the one that takes away sin. And that he's the one who meets us where we are. He's the one who gets down into the muck of our life and works with us to become more like him. Now, if, and again, this is kind of that moment of reflection and moment of awareness. If anything in your life has you going, I could be a little more Christian here, I would like you to raise your hand. And, it's an opportunity to be bold in saying that God is good. 1 John chapter 4, verse 11 says, "Beloved, if God so loved us, we ought to love one another." Church, what better way to love on someone than to pray with them, to pray for them, to pray over them? Because I want us, again, to look at our lives. I want us to reflect and consider, where could I be a Christian better? Where could I actively change my life to be more like Jesus? So if there's any one of those things, I would like to see a show of hands. And I'm not asking you to step out of your seat. I'm not asking you to actively go pray for someone unless you would like to, but I would like to see, I'm going to hope that I am not the only one that feels that there's at least one thing on this list that I would be asking you to pray for me with. But I'm just asking for a boldness to say, I'm having a tough time with one of these things. And I want to come together as a community saying that we, as Christian Life Center, are seeking to be more like Jesus. So again, if you would be so bold, would you raise your hand if there's any area of your life that you could be more like Jesus? And if you would look around, everyone here, there was a reason I didn't ask for hands down, or for heads down, eyes closed. I wanted you to see that there are people around you. You are not the only one who could be more like Jesus. So can we actively just take a moment to pray over anybody in this room that we would be more like Jesus?